So recently, I found myself moving and had a lot of time on my hand, enough time to finally get around to listening to Critical Role's newest acquisition, the podcast Midst. God, that's hard to say. Yes, if you didn't know, Critical Role recently made some big moves in the roleplay space, their media company, Metapigeon, acquiring the IP to Midst, self-described semi-improvised audio drama. For all intensive purposes, this show, this audio podcast, is kind of like the modern rebirth of the radio show era. Hello everyone, welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. Today, we gotta talk about Critical Role's newest acquisition, the media podcast Midst, and all of the other big moves that Critical Role is making. Really, the best way I can describe Midst is like a classic radio drama, but with a twist. Midst is kind of this spaced western thriller, drama, audio roleplay podcast set in the town of Stationary Hill on the desert planet known as Midst. We are taken into the story, the journey of Midst, with our three anonymous narrators, each simultaneously switching off the narration, the kind of storytelling, the dungeon master role aspect, as you will, while simultaneously interlacing different dialogue of the many different characters. Now, I'm not gonna even lie to you guys, I absolutely love and adore this show. In a lot of ways, it really brings me back to my childhood, as I grew up listening on Sirius XM radio to the classic radio shows of the 30s, the 20s, the 40s, and the 50s. One of my favorite things as a kid, especially on long drives and road trips, was to listen to these classic radio shows like Dragnet, Suspense, anyone that had kind of a drama horror theme, as I absolutely loved it. Midst is like you took a classic radio show, a horror show, kind of like Suspense, but then you combine it with this strange aspect of roleplay, of almost Dungeons and Dragons-esque, as the show describes itself as a self-improvised audio drama, or semi-improvised audio drama, something that hits you very obviously in the face from the narration style of our three narrators. There very much is roleplay in improvisation here. It seems like they have kind of a bare bones-esque script just from listening, but you can tell right away that these guys are role-playing, they are improvising this story semi as they go, and it's absolutely fantastic. To me, Midst is really a breath of fresh air in kind of this D&D roleplay space, as there's so many different Dungeons and Dragons, podcasts, shows, just roleplay podcasts and shows out there right now, but Midst to me really has this kind of unique field going to it. A lot of it because it is specifically audio, but also in the format and how they present it. Midst has this really impressive way of really sucking you into their narrative, their world, and I think a lot of it has to do with the three anonymous talented narrators and voice actors that make up the world of Midst. You interlace this talent for storytelling with an absolutely amazing original world. I mean, who doesn't like space cowboys, guys, all tied together with some amazing music and sound effects, and it just brings it all together for the epicness that is Midst. If you ever listen to a radio show, especially the classic radio shows, you know that the sound effects and the music are extremely important for setting the mood, for drawing the viewer in, for creating immersion into your story, and I have to give the team at Midst, as well as the Critical Role production crew, absolutely all of the credit here, because wow, did they make an amazing story, an amazing kind of product here. After acquiring Midst, Critical Role is re-releasing the first two seasons of Midst into remastered versions of the first two seasons, some 40 episodes each spanning around 20 to 40 minutes, which really isn't that bad in terms of a roleplay story experience, with future plans for releasing season 3 of Midst in the upcoming future. To my knowledge, this is the first unique IP that Critical Role's media company, Metapigeon, has acquired, which obviously boosts the eyes and ears on the Midst podcast and the Midst brand. As well, Critical Role can now offer Midst all of its vast amount of resources, from their audio tech engineers, for their vast array of artists, all of their connections within the industry, you name it. Overall, I think this is an amazing direction for Critical Role to go. They are easily the biggest and the most influential Dungeons and Dragons roleplay show in the kind of roleplay storytelling space right now online. As well, we can't forget that Critical Role and the Critical Role team obviously are voice actresses. They are actors and actresses. They have a lot of unique connections into the media world, into the space in Hollywood, etc. A lot of resources that people, I imagine, would be clamoring for. Honestly, I just think it's really awesome that Critical Role is willing to reinvest all of the vast resources that they've gained from their own success back into the community, back into artists, back into creators who want to make something unique, want to make something with their friends. Midst, in a lot of ways, kind of shares the Critical Role story. It seems very much like they are a group of friends who came together to make a very unique piece of media. In a lot of ways, they kind of mirror Critical Role in its origin, and so I can completely understand why Critical Role took an interest in acquiring this IP. I'm gonna say this right now, guys. If you haven't listened to Myths, I highly encourage you to go give it a shot. Obviously, audio only isn't for everyone, but personally, I absolutely love it. There's just something unique about the world that is created from an audio-only experience, especially one that's set in this kind of format that is very akin to the old radio shows, the radio shows of the 20s and 30s, really the original building blocks and dramas for kind of our modern media landscape that we have right now, and it really just makes for an awesome, unique experience. I really hope we continue to see this trend from Critical Role, them reinvesting their money and their resources into other creators, other IPs of all different types throughout the kind of role-playing genre to create even more stories and even greater works. We've talked about this a lot, but Critical Role has a lot of influence in the role-play space and just online presence in general, and they really have the ability to shake up this media landscape as well as the tabletop RPG landscape through all of these different productions that they are putting their money and time into. Let's not forget that only a few weeks ago, Critical Role announced that they will be unveiling Matt Mercer's unique tabletop RPG system, Daggerheart, upcoming this year, a system that a lot of people are curious about how it will affect Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition as a whole. Overall, I just want to say I love what Critical Role is doing here. I think that Myths is an awesome experience, an awesome show, and I think they fit into the Critical Role brand, the kind of Critical Role verse very well. It's just an awesome, unique experience filled with very talented storytellers. At its heart, Myths is just an absolute amazing storytelling experience, something that I think that the Critical Role team must have saw and attracted them to it immediately, because it really is a very unique storytelling listening experience, especially in the kind of modern media world that we have. I highly encourage you guys to go check out Myths over on Critical Role's YouTube channel. They release a new episode every week, it seems like, and I gotta just be honest, guys, it is very good. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are on Myths in the comment section down below. If you want to hear more of my opinions and thoughts on Critical Role, why don't you click the video on screen now, The Fall of Critical Role, where I address some of the many criticisms from the community and the fan base that they have towards Critical Role Campaign 3. As always, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, adu.